Hi everyone, it's me, Ferdinand the Cardboard Slacker, and in this video I'm going to take a look at Board Game Cafe Frenzy. This is a game from Taiwan, and it's from a publisher called The Wood Game. So this is really cool. It's about a game about you're building up your cafe, board game cafe, and which you're going to collect the products like the Wi-Fi, the board games, and building up your menu, and then you're going to play this little trick-taking game in it, and then you're going to build your board game cafe. So let's go ahead and take a closer look at this and give my thoughts at the end.
And before we move on, don't forget to hit subscribe and turn on that bell notification button to stay up to date.
In the game of Board Game Cafe Frenzy, as a small startup shop, you'll be building up your menu, setting up Wi-Fi, making a board game collection, hiring employees, and expanding your store. The game is broken up into two phases. First is to collect cards by drafting cards in a market, then to play those cards in a trick-taking-esque style to build up your store. Each player begins with a store that has a unique scoring ability used at the end of the game, and it also has its starting capacity. Two customers are flipped to show both coins awarded to players who complete the given task at the end. In the first phase, there will be a line of cards to choose from. Each time new cards are turned over for the round, they are arranged from lowest to highest. There are 5 different suits, each that provide their own effects and advantages. Higher cards have the advantage in the following phase, but you can save up your action tokens by taking the lower cards when you get to go first next round. If you take the highest card, then you not only have to spend 2 action tokens, but you get an action tile. These action tiles will be used in the second phase and each have 3 different actions you can activate with action tokens. Some suits will have a bonus effect when taken, which the player gets upon taking the card. Once all players have 10 cards in their hand, there is a small scoring phase before going into the next. The player with the most Wi-Fi cards gets points. The player with a pair of board game and menu cards also gets some points. In the next phase, players will select a card in their hand to play down. The rules of this part of the game is the cards played must be different in suit from any previously played card on the same turn. If a player cannot play a different suit, then they may play any card. If a tie occurs, then there will be a tiebreaker. The player who played the highest card gets to select 2 cards from the cards that has been played to build their cafe and then get to go first next round. The next players in order only selects 1. The last player does not get a card but instead gets 2 action tokens. After getting their cards, some cards will trigger and award them with action tokens or icons used for scoring. The players need to check to see if they are over their maximum capacity of cards. If it's over, then they need to discard down. If a player has an open action on their action tile, then they may use an action token to use an action by covering it. One of the actions you can do is upgrading cards so they can produce more icons and award extra coins. After all cards have been played, it's time to score. First, the number of Wi-Fi icons score you a number of coins. Then customers in which they are looking particular cards in your cafe. If you don't have them, then you'll be penalized. With every 2 action tokens turns into 1 coin. The size of your cafe score coins. But then you have to pay off your employees with your own coins you earn. Finally, the cafe's unique score ability. The player with the most coins at the end of the game wins. Okay, so that was an overview of the game. So let's go ahead and start with the presentation. First of all I'd like to go over the rulebook. The rulebook was written okay. There's some spots that I couldn't disconnect. There's one spot about the division of the phases that I could not get in there, which was just a little bit more clear on that. I mean, the rulebook I think is written fine, but when I was reading it, I didn't get this thing where phase 1 and phase 2 were one whole different thing. So phase 1 was like you play out all the cards in there, and then phase 2 you're going to play out all the cards from your hand. So I don't know why I didn't get that. Other than that, the components are great. The tokens and the card art, I really like it. I wish there was a little bit more card art in there, but I think for the purposes it's a little bit more easier to identify since there are only 5 suits in there. So I don't know, I really like the art and I wish there was a little bit more in it. I also want to point out is the box itself. I mean, you can see that the there is a kind of like this UV kind of shading in there. I think that's what it's called, UV shading. There we go. So yeah, so like you can see they're little meeples. So that's really cool. I think this little attention to the details on that, I think makes it stand out a little bit more. All right, let's go ahead and get into the gameplay of things. So this is a game that I think you need a little bit more strategy in the front end part, or else you're not going to do as well. So for the first part, you're trying to take the cards in which you're going to play or take later. So say if you're getting all the high cards, yes, you're going to spend a little bit more of your action cards. You also get an action tile for that. But when you're going into the second phase with all the cards you have taken, then you have to see like, oh, which card should I play so I can actually take these cards, and building up to where you want to have either these Wi-Fi symbols or these board game symbols or even employees that actually will help you in the long run to get you even more points. I think the action tiles is another thing I found interesting in the game, in which you actually have to take the action tiles in order to use them for the next round. So it's really hard to get action tiles in the following rounds, but as you take them, there's a lot more things you can do with them. You can even get more action tiles here, what I believe, but you get more these action tokens. You get to upgrade cards, which is very important, increase in capacity. So taking those, and you get to use your action tiles all in one of your turns in the second part of the round. So it's always good to take any of those as much as you can. And the thing I found the most fascinating about the game is that they really built in this trick-taking aspect in there, where you are taking the cards in the first part, and then you're going to use them as trick taking and then build upon on those cards in your tableau or your actual board game cafe. I don't know, but I just find it fascinating in that also that when you get cards the first round, you might get something, a little bonus if you have taken those cards, but you also get another small bonus if you have taken those cards in that game. So I like that these are multi-use cards. There's a lot of things that are going on to it. But again, even though it looks a little busy, it's actually quite simple than it looks. Now, one of the things I think can happen in the game is that it can take just a little too long. I mean, it kind of drags out itself. There's going to be 10 rounds of taking cards and then another 10 rounds of playing all these cards. And you're like, oh, you keep playing and it kind of loses a little bit of steam, especially in the first part of the game and especially in the second part of the game, where you just keep playing cards and cards. And as a trick-taking game, it does kind of lose the steam in that way. So it becomes a little less interesting. And that's also because it's going to take a little longer than you actually think when playing the game. Another thing I thought was just a little annoying is the turn order part, especially the second part of the game, where you have to kind of like reorder everything. You have these little cards or tokens that you will place in front of people so you know their turn. So turn order is very important on how the cards are played, and turn orders it's like super important in this game as well, of what cards you're going to play, like going last or going first. Board Game Cafe Frenzy. I think it's quite an interesting game where they have built upon these familiar mechanics, and they're like trick taking, your action selection, drafting in there, and kind of put it in this game. And I think it makes it quite unique in there, and also it's some of the stuff like in the art, I didn't mention this at all, but they actually put some of their games in there, some of their this little cameos of their games inside this game of the same game publishers company. So yeah, so I really dig it, and I think if you think you sort of like this kind of game, I mean, I would say it's a bit abstract in its nature, but I think it's still pretty neat. Go ahead, check it out. Board Game Cafe Frenzy.
This video has been brought to you by our sponsors on Patreon. Thanks for becoming a stacker and helping us keep this channel going. Visit our Patreon page to learn how you can too become a stacker. And thank you for watching. Come follow us on Twitter, like us on Facebook, and check out our website, thecardboardstacker.com. I'm Ferdinand the Cardboard Stacker, reminding you to keep on stacking games.